This is Food Talk for Health, because you really are what you eat. Here is your host, Tonya King.
On Food Talk for Health, we talk about food as medicine, nutrition, holistic health and wellness, and a lot more. And each week, my guests share their knowledge and passion for what they do, and I'm happy to be able to share it. Joining me today on Food Talk for Health, it is my pleasure to welcome Sally Norton, Ivy League nutritionist and author of the book Toxic Superfoods, How Oxalate Overload is Making You Sick and How to Get Better. Thanks for joining me, Sally.
What a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
A lot of people have no idea what oxalates are. How do we begin?
I know. In fact, it might as well be a planet past Pluto, right? Honestly, in college, we learn, I went to school at Cornell for nutrition, and you know about oxalates because they bind calcium in the diet along with tannins in tea. And so certain things you shouldn't eat, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, this is what makes a kidney stone. And those people with kidney disorders need to be on this low oxalate diet, but that's it. End of story. That's all we know about it. But the average person has never heard of it. In fact, your average doctor, if you ask them what an oxalate is, they might be like, I think I should know that.
Shows you what they're teaching in medical school.
Yeah, unfortunately. And in nutrition school. I mean, I got myself in big trouble. In fact, healthy eating was the worst mistake of my life, and I have degrees in this stuff. I decided as a fifth grader that I was a nutrition geek, and in seventh grade, I would go to school for it. And I've been in public health and in integrative medicine for my career, and I didn't know.
So what happened? Did you just get sick and try to figure out why?
Yeah, I spent most of my life trying to figure out why. In fact, as a little kid, I had some issues with like strep infections and ear infections. And so that's why I was so into it early, because I learned quickly that if you're sick, you don't have fun in life. You're barred from the swimming pool. That's no good.
Right.
Like, health is wealth. And even a little kid can figure that out pretty fast if you torture them with liquid penicillin on a spoon.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So I struggled with some back pain when I was 12 and arthritis. And then when I was a vegetarian and vegan, I had severe arthritis everywhere. I could sometimes not open a door. And I had fatigue. I had trouble concentrating. And then I had to drop out of Cornell with foot pain problems, had to have foot surgery. I traveled 3 states over to have foot surgery, and it wasn't enough to really fix the problem. And I had 30 years of not being able to go barefoot, not being able to run, jump, play tennis, all that. And then I ended up with a sleep disorder, which fundamentally sort of ended my career yet again, where my brain was waking up 29 times an hour. Now, I have been a goody two-shoes with food and lifestyle, like growing organic vegetables and coming home from work and making a salad and 2 side vegetables and like eating right, and so sick. And it turned out that it was my diet after all. And I had been trying to figure out, like, it's got to be something in my diet. And it turned out the sleep disorder, the foot problems, the arthritis, the fatigue are all oxalate poisoning problems.
But was it your physician that finally brought this to light, or you yourself?
Of course not. It was through just stupidity on my part, in a way, and that I ended up with an attack of vulvar pain for 3 days, and that got my attention, let me tell you.
Wow.
And it turns out online, there's this Vulvar Pain Foundation. She's been around for something like 33 years at this point. And she's been teaching a low oxalate diet for vulva pain and talks about connective tissue disorders. And she describes the thin skin I had and the tendency to arthritis and fibromyalgia and the tendency to headaches. And I'm like, well, that sounds like me, but it didn't make scientific sense to me. I didn't have the science, despite my science background, understand it. So I dove in deep to the literature and realized I really didn't know enough about the foods. And that's what she specialized in, is teaching you which foods are high in oxalate, which is something the plants make. It's not in any of the animal foods that we're so afraid of. It's in the foods we trust. And it's in foods that are getting more and more trusted all the time now, because it's real high in spinach, chard, and beet greens. It's high in sweet potatoes and chia seeds and almonds and almond milk, dark chocolate, kiwi, blackberries, quinoa, things that we are told are going to make us well. And so as you start getting sick, you tend to use more of them.
Sure.
You don't realize that this is the last thing you need.
If you're a vegetarian, especially, right? You're making spinach smoothies in the morning and all of the things that you just mentioned, the quinoa and the almonds. You don't even think about the fact that they could be making you sick. And so when it finally comes to light, it's hard to just stop, right? How in the world do we change our diet at least easily? And it's not easy.
It's not because of that mental hurdle. I mean, imagine the shock when I realized that my healthy diet had poisoned me. It wrecked my sleep, my bones, my joints, and my immune system. I'm like stunned. It's such a brain, like put a blender in my brain and stir around. What do you do with that? It's so upsetting. I had to give up my garden for a year because it
Oh
turned out
my
my fig
gosh.
trees were not my friend. Like my major hobby was like bad for me. I've been growing Swiss chard since I was 9. And but clearly it was the question, it was the answer I'd been needing for decades. And I quickly recognized that no one can figure this out because your doctor's not going to tell you, your dietitian's not going to tell you, your dad's not going to tell you, the internet isn't telling you. Like I am not the only one who can succumb to the damage caused by daily consumption of a toxin.
So, did you do research on what vegetables or fruits or food in general are high in oxalates? Like, did that take you a long time to even figure out which ones were worse than others?
Well, luckily, we had the Vulvar Pain Foundation who had been using donations from the membership to have foods tested, and they have really expanded our access to that information because the world of dietitians and doctors has not bothered to say, we ought to know what we're eating. It's so interesting that in nutrition, we're willing to give advice and we don't actually know what's in a food and don't care because we do have sort of a benefits only mindset and we have this mindset that plants are safe. And they never asked us in school, like, what comes to mind when you hear the word toxin?
Oh, gosh.
What do you think of a natural toxin? Is that okay? I mean, is it okay to go in the woods and start willy-nilly eating pokeweed berries and random mushrooms and the pretty berries off the bushes? Is that okay to have your dog eat your houseplants or your kid eat your bushes? Like, inevitably, there's some potential trouble there.
How do you know how much to eat and not eat? And I would think that you can't just do a cold turkey with oxalate removal,
That's
correct?
true. That is true. And there's a lot of irony and paradox in this whole question of getting poisoned on too much Swiss chard and almond milk. That how do you, if you've gained a problem of bioaccumulation, because this is what's starting to happen now, is that we're building up oxalates in our body. A kidney stone is an example of that, but you can have little stones in your thyroid gland and this and that. And so you may be holding on to a toxic load because some of the foods that have it are foods we're given as a small child, like chocolate, peanut butter, and potato products. And you can go wild with those in all kinds of forms and fashion. I mean, we this time of year is like the candy, the chocolate covered nut time of year.
Right. It's bad.
It's bad, it's everywhere. And so this starts building up in your body. So when you change from eating so much, and so that was a big question, which wasn't obvious. It took a lot of research to find the researchers who said, well, normal at 150 or 200 milligrams a day exposure is also pretty well tolerated. So with the healthy kidneys, because the kidneys are what takes it out of the bloodstream and helps you get rid of it, with healthy kidneys, you probably could tolerate somewhere between 100 and 200 milligrams of oxalate a day, but your standard spinach smoothie is over 400 milligrams.
Wow.
And a high oxalate diet is defined as 250 milligrams.
Wow. So you definitely can easily go over the edge quickly.
Oh my gosh, one smoothie can give you as much as 1,000 milligrams, which is pretty much like 8 times what you should be tolerating.
A lot of people talking about how healthy all of those greens are. How can you determine whether it's really hurting you or not? Like, what if it doesn't affect somebody else the same way it affects you?
Well, there's definitely a different dose response with different people. Like if I was to give you 3.5 to 4.5 smoothies in a day, I could literally kill you.
Wow.
But chances are it would take 10 or 15 of those smoothies to kill you. But who you are, whether you're the 4 spinach smoothie death or the eighth or the 10 spinach smoothie death or 15, does it matter? I mean, at some point, you're going to get it. You're not going to allow endless toxins somehow to be in your system and be okay with that. At some point, it's going to erode your immune function. One study showed that after one of these spinach smoothies that was only 720 milligrams of oxalate, 40 minutes afterwards, in 70% of the participants, it only took 40 minutes for the immune cells to be broken from one mild spinach smoothie.
Now, oxalates, we talked about briefly, they do directly affect the kidneys. So, is there a way for the kidneys to heal from oxalates? Like, can oxalates easily be removed from the kidneys?
Well, the kidneys specialize in it because they concentrate oxalates and other poisons out of the bloodstream. So they are the most well equipped at doing so, but they also achieve the highest concentrations of it if it's coming out. If it's in your bloodstream, your kidneys are highly exposed to it. And what happens in the kidneys, there's this whole tubule structure in there, these big loops
Hmm.
in those little tubules is where the urine is forming. And when the oxalate is there, oxalic acid is the parent compound. And in your body, oxalic acid gets into your bloodstream and it starts taking calcium out of your blood and out of your tissues and ultimately out of your bones. And as that urine is forming, you're excreting minerals like magnesium and calcium and other ones, and you're excreting oxalic acid. And so it can crystallize. So you end up with oxalic acid and calcium makes this little, what they call oxalate. And that calcium oxalate will precipitate out, as they call it, from solution where it's a dissolved ion into crystals. So it crystallizes, and that's what a kidney stone is, the crystallizing calcium oxalate. Your doctor says it's a calcium stone, but it's oxalate. So now what your body's busy doing is preventing those crystals from clogging all those little tubules and the ureters and things that are draining this urine out of your kidneys. And so the kidneys suck it in back into the kidney tissue, and you get what's called nephrocalcinosis, where you get calcium oxalate building up also in the kidney tissues as well as in the tubules. So the best thing we can do to protect our kidneys is A, moderate and reduce the amount of oxalate we're eating. And then if you do that, you can possibly continue to overload your kidneys because you still have oxalate in your thyroid gland, in your kidneys themselves, in other tissues of the body, like the bones, the bone marrow, the eyeballs, and so on. So now they've got to heal, and we can support that with some magnesium, calcium, and citrate. And so supplements like calcium citrate and magnesium citrate are very helpful. Lemon juice, a half cup a day, is known to help the body dissolve kidney stones, and you can release kidney stones and calcified kidneys and help them heal. They really are designed, the tissue, your body wants to be the best it can every day and wants to heal. We just need to know why it's not happy and how to help it get rid of the junk.
Right. No, that's right. But it's good that there are things such as lemon juice and whatnot, and thinking about supplements or diet. But if you have the right pH and gut health, I mean, shouldn't your body just process the oxalates and eliminate them naturally or not?
Right. Well, so you start absorbing that oxalic acid, say, in your almond milk, right?
Yeah.
And so that's in a very dilute solution. You have oxalic acid, and it starts absorbing immediately from the stomach and gets into the bloodstream and affects your vascular system, your circulating immune cells, your circulating red blood cells, and goes straight to the liver. And it can be a bit much there. So it's the liver is using up glutathione to protect itself from the toxic effects of the oxalic acid. And the liver is making more oxalic acid as part of its metabolism. So the liver doesn't take it away, it adds more to it. And then it's sent to your heart and your lungs, your heart again. That's how the circulation goes from your stomach to the liver. That's just how blood flows. And it takes a while for it to get to the kidneys and to the colon, now releasing it. Now, in the hepatic circulation, there's potential for the colon to also help the kidneys eliminate oxalate. And it turns out that the skin is interested in getting rid of oxalate, and maybe the lungs and the saliva glands and so on. So if you get a lot of tartar on your teeth,
Yeah.
that could be a sign that you've got too much oxalate in your blood.
Now that's interesting. I have not heard that before.
The saliva glands concentrate oxalate because they concentrate bicarb or alkaline substance like, baking soda type thing. So that bicarbonate is being put into the saliva. So you have a nice almost neutral saliva to help protect your teeth. And that same transporter that builds saliva will put oxalate in the saliva at a rate that's 10 or 30 times higher than what's in the blood. So after that meal of, say, maybe you did the almond milk in your spinach smoothie, you had a whole for breakfast. Like people do that. They'll make a spinach smoothie with almond milk and a scoop of peanut butter, all
Oh,
oxalate foods, and a little turmeric. That's another high oxalate food. And why not throw in some blackberries, another high oxalate food? It could be just this oxalate bonanza for breakfast. And so in the next several hours, you have very elevated oxalate in the bloodstream. It peaks about 4 hours, but it can start in something that's liquid like that. It can start in 10 minutes where you have elevated oxalate. So that can be affecting your saliva and the whole body. Every cell is a little bit unhappy about being exposed to oxalates. So
boy, these bodies of ours are complicated, aren't they? My
oh, it's
goodness.
fascinating. It's so cool that it can handle oxalate to some degree and it doesn't complain. I mean, this can go on for a while. You could have tartar on your teeth, but not have neck pain, not have arthritis, not have headaches, not have cloudy urine with the crystals coming out of your urine, not have a kidney stone. You could be seeming fine, and then all of a sudden you hit 40 and you have osteoporosis and you've
Oh,
such and such and so on.
it is really crazy because so many times they say, well, for breakfast, don't eat sugar, don't eat donuts, and don't eat bagels and stuff, right? That, leaning you towards the smoothies that we just talked about. And yet, look at what it's doing. You're told to eat nutrient-rich foods.
Unfortunately, this is a nutrient destroyer because it
Yeah.
the calcium and minerals and makes you mineral deficient way more than we're giving it credit for. I mean, we are taught it in school that oxalate can mess with your calcium absorption, but which it does. And so when you have a lot of high dairy foods and high calcium, it does reduce how much you gets into your bloodstream somewhat, but it doesn't prevent it completely. But in the meantime, you're not getting those minerals you think you're getting out of your food. It's blocking that in this sort of anti-nutrient role, as well as this pro-inflammatory and tissue destruction role and kidney stone role. Like,
Oh,
golly, it's so unfair. I have this idealism that if you're trying hard to eat well, you should be rewarded. But
yes.
it's not fair that you're doing the right things and it's not the right thing after all.
A lot of people don't want to give up that dark chocolate like me. Because
But maybe
you're
you
also
don't have
told
to.
that it's still good for, high antioxidants. So where do you draw the line? Can you still have a little?
Yeah, you don't want it, like we said, you don't want to necessarily jump to a all meat diet with no oxalates in it at all.
Right.
And but some plant foods don't have much. I mean, you can certainly eat a lot of plant foods that don't have a lot of oxalate. With chocolate, you can switch to a milk chocolate and reduce how much oxalate you're getting, or use a white chocolate. But you got to also be really careful with chocolate because it's full of lead and cadmium. You have to pick just those brands that have been tested. And this whole antioxidant story is a little bit suspicious and not
Ah.
completely honest in itself. It's much as much marketing as anything. Even Barkeeper's Friend is got oxalic acid in it because it's a cleaner. Oxalic acid, because it does such a great job of bleaching things and taking metals out. You can take the rust out of an engine, your patio with it. And so Barkeeper's Friend brags that it has a natural ingredient that spinach has in it, therefore it's safe. When in fact you absolutely need to wear gloves because the oxalic acid in that cleaner will potentially cause arthritis and other problems in your hands.
God, who knows what it's doing inside your body?
Well, imagine that. Imagine
Well,
eating a bleach and a cleaner that can take the
oh,
rest out of your patio. It can take the calcium and minerals right out of your system,
oh my God.
cause inflammatory distress in your vascular system and your eyes, and wreck your vision. And I've had people come to me with so many problems that get better on this diet. It's really taught me so much with the neurotoxicity, for example, anxiety. People with severe anxiety for decades and decades suddenly, like, I don't have anxiety now because I quit my smoothies and my dark chocolate. So depends on what your goals are in life if you want to cut back on chocolate or not.
And, it also depends on what your ailments are to determine if it's from high oxalates, right?
Yeah, but and I can say if you want longevity and don't want your bones eroded and want to keep your vision and do all those things, not have so many old age ailments, that even if it seems like you're fine today, reducing toxin like oxalate is really not that hard and the rewards are tremendous. And if you've got anything wrong with you, eating a lot of a toxin can't help it along. It's not going to help you get over what is wrong with you for whatever reason. Getting some of this is either the central issue or it's a side issue, but either way, it could be eroding your health.
We are talking with nutritionist and author of the book Toxic Superfoods, Sally Norton. Somebody gave me a gift of your data companion to this book. And
Oh,
I got to tell you, it is really impressive to be able to look at all these different fruits, vegetables, grains, everything under the sun and determine the quantity of oxalates if you're really trying to keep it under control. So tell us about this data companion book.
Yes, well, the oxalate, what's got oxalate in it and how much is really a big mystery to all dietitians. The lists they have in their textbooks are not right. The things that are online are not right. And so you're just going to be tied in a knot trying to get to these answers. So clearly, if I'm going to help people reduce oxalate exposure and recover from any oxalate overload in their body, they need to know where it is in the food and how much, because we actually start using it medicinally to try to control the body's attempt to recover from oxalate deposits in the tissues. So it's really helpful for those of us who know we have oxalate poisoning. It's important for anyone who wants to prevent it and anyone who's in the business of helping people design diets. So it was not a good way to get the data, which shocked me because I had this innocent idea that the federal government had these data charts on food and compounds in them, and a lot of what the USDA numbers are completely wrong. So it took a lot of work to kind of vet and dig up things, but the real credit goes to the Volver Pain Foundation because they made the biggest effort to have foods tested. And if those tests are done correctly, we have to believe they are, that's giving us a basis for designing a healthier way to live.
It's just great to have the companion guide right there if you really are focused on trying to eliminate them out of your diet.
And having it in the paper form, you can get it from my
Yeah.
website as a PDF, and that's searchable, but having a paper form is also real useful. And so I try to keep it simple, as simple as possible in food categories, the way we tend to do in dietetics, and color coded. So you can see if it's white or green, it's like almost nothing in it. If it's orange, pink, or red, these are foods you got to be paying attention to.
The other thing I'm excited about, you have a new cookbook out. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm doing a second edition of the PDF cookbook on my website, and that is going to be available by early December of 2025 here. And there's more coming along the way. So we're still, it's amazing how much work it is to make everything perfect. And of course, everything takes longer than we thought it would take. But yeah, the thing is, when people are looking for oxalate information, I've really made a complete 100% devoted study to this because my whole life shipwrecked on not knowing this. And I want to know the facts because I'm a very academic person. So it's the data, it's someone, but I've really put out just a small number of things. As you go online and look for my information, you're going to be offered 40 things because there's a lot of scams out there. So if you want to know what's mine, you have to come to my website or buy Toxic Superfoods, the book from the outlets, and then everything else you can find on my website, which is sallyknorton.com. Because right now, there's just everyone and their brother has an opportunity electronically to kind of commit a little bit of fraud and laziness, one or the other, or both. And
Right.
so it's you want to stick with someone who's trying to be on your side, not just be part of this economy that we have now.
Exactly. But any chance you can share a couple recipes with us?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sure. And some of the easy things to do are this time of year, people are doing a kind of fall root vegetable thing with the potatoes and this and that. And there are ways to get away from these foods easily. Switching out your spinach. Almost all the lettuces are great. Going to winter squashes instead of sweet potatoes. And using, weirdly enough, rutabagas, turnips, and things like this instead of potatoes. And there's some easy free ones on my website. And then in my cookbook, there's over 200 recipes there as well.
Can you tell us how to make anything specifically?
Yeah, so instead of potatoes, if you want to do mashed turnips, I like to do a combination of turnips and rutabaga. You boil them and then you dry them out because they're real watery. If you were just to boil cubed rutabaga and puree it, it would feel more like soup. But if
Yeah.
you put it back in the pan and kind of toss it around in a dry pan or in on a tray in the oven and kind of dry it out a little bit without making it too crunchy, if you want to make a puree like a mashed potato texture, you just dry it out in the pan and use enough salt and butter. And it's delicious. It's very simple. Salt and butter. And then if you want to cream it up with other dairy products or non-dairy substitutes, like say coconut, a ground up coconut. You can play with it. But really the basic thing is to know that it's much waterier. It's not as starchy as potato. So if you dry it out, you can make it fill in. And same with even cauliflower and things like that, the sort of white vegetables, if you're trying to swap out potatoes, which works for your lower carb and works for lower oxalate.
Is it true that cooking some vegetables lowers the oxalate content?
Well, we don't have enough research to say uniformly that that's true. If you boil a lot of vegetables like broccoli, which is a medium oxalate food, you boil it well enough. Now, on the test, we boil it for 10 minutes. Now, if you boil broccoli for 10 minutes, you will have pureed broccoli.
Yeah.
It's only about 3 minutes and it starts to fall apart where
It
the little
get-
florets break up,
yeah, it
right?
gets like mush.
Mush. So, okay, we know 10-minute boil will reduce it by a third to a half. So it brings it down to a moderately low vegetable. So even if you can only boil it for 2 minutes, they'll still have it culinarily appropriate. That's worth doing. But in other cases, it doesn't seem to change at all. And asparagus doesn't change one bit when you boil it.
No
So
kidding.
yeah, it's really interesting. Now, I don't know if they've tried to peel the asparagus, if that would make a difference or what, but certainly steaming or microwaving or putting it in a soup pot will not change a thing because heat does not change oxalic acid or oxalate crystals whatsoever. You'd have to incinerate them at like 500 degrees in a forest fire in order to get rid of them. So you're not going to do that in the kitchen.
Let's
He
hope
doesn't
not.
do it. And cooking. So that's a common myth, though, online is that, oh, just cook it or just eat
Right.
something with it. Those are work for a few foods, but we really would need more research to be able to say which ones. And even fermentation. This is another one that people, oh, well, if you just ferment it, it'll be fine. But a lot of these foods are so high in oxalate that fermenting it will bring it from the stratosphere to the outer space. It's still more high than you can tolerate. It doesn't bring it within human tolerance levels.
So even sauerkraut? I mean,
Sauerkraut
cabbage?
is cabbage is already almost no, your standard green cabbage head has almost no oxalate in it. The most of the cabbage family is very, very low in oxalate relative to spinach, like tiny. So it's already low. And when you turn it into sauerkraut, it's even better because all the other plant toxins and phytotoxins that are in cabbage are tamed by the fermentation and it's pre-digested, so it's easier to digest and it won't be such a kind of flatulent type food. That's a great idea. I love making homemade sauerkraut. My cookbook has 4 versions of it. I love
Oh,
it has a little bit of turnip, some onion, some red pepper, oregano, and some red pepper flakes in it. Not a lot. It doesn't take a lot. A couple teaspoons per cabbage head of the oregano, maybe a teaspoon of the red pepper flakes. And that homemade sauerkraut is delicious.
that sounds really interesting. Can't wait to check that out. Now, what about desserts? How do you satisfy your sweet tooth if you have one?
Well, I don't really have a huge sweet tooth, but I'm not too afraid of dessert and sugars. But I things like baked apples. I have a really nice baked apple recipe where you use lemon juice, butter, ginger. I like to use crystallized ginger because crystallized ginger is boiled ginger, and that does bring the oxalate down out of the
Oh, that's good to
ginger.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so crystallized ginger is like candy. It's like jelly beans to
Oh, I
me.
love it. I know.
I love it. So I can like slice that in little and stick it in the hole in the apple. Like you take the core out, but you leave the stem end or the little blossom end at the bottom. So you have a container in the middle of the apple to put in the butter and lemon juice and sugar and maybe a whole clove and some crystallized ginger root and bake that till they're all foamy and soft and they're delicious.
Oh, that sounds like a great way to satisfy a sweet tooth.
Yeah, it's great. And I have these little coconut crispies that aren't very sweet because coconut itself is naturally sweet without being high carb. And so you can do a lot with coconut if you get a little clever.
It
And there's a
seems,
lot of other things too.
yeah, it seems like the cookbook is just a natural thing for you because I would think a lot of people ask you, okay, here are all these things we can't eat. What can we eat?
Exactly. When I started teaching this, I was so afraid of taking away food. That's not what those of us in the health world, me in nutrition, I don't like to be someone who says don't eat something.
Right.
And so I was so concerned about that. I invented a hummus made with cauliflower and pumpkin seeds that's delicious. And in other dishes, I would make 3 or 4 dishes and bring them to a free talk and give away my food and hard work for free and have displayed vegetables on the table next to me to show them I'm not taking away from the swap process. So I have a swap chart in the book and so on. But I personally, I have found that once I've destroyed my gut with beans and too much vegetarianism in the past, I do better with sort of minimal fiber and very select, curated, minimal amounts of fruits and vegetables.
So, do you still eat meat or fish?
Oh, yeah, I rely on fish and pork as standard staples to keep me going, and rice and some basic things, coconut products and some fruit here and there. But it's kind of nice to like to not feel I have to come home and I absolutely have to make a salad and I have to cook 2 vegetables and I have to like there's a lot of pressure to eat that way. It's actually doesn't it's nice. You don't really have to do all that. It's simpler.
And I think once you get this whole oxalate thing under control, can you slowly maybe add some back in that aren't really high?
Well, I'd say generally, it's really about the big worst offenders. That is, some of the ones we mentioned, like the quinoa and the almonds, the nuts generally.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on how you're doing and what your health goals are. Because like so many problems, it's sort of asymptomatic. You don't necessarily know that this is bothering you or that it's eroding your bones or your vision or anything else. So you want to maintain a consciousness, oxalate awareness, so you're staying within your human ability to excrete it, which is under 200 milligrams a day. You don't want to be having lots of days where you're eating thousands of milligrams of oxalate. And that's my message. Like, get out of the danger zone of taking in toxic levels of oxalate, come down into the human zone of how much you can tolerate. And occasionally, go ahead and have that chocolate fudge torte that's full of almonds. But you might find that like 1 or 2 bites is actually good enough. You've got that experience. You don't need to pile on.
Right. Wow. Lots of great information to think about. We're talking with Sally Norton, nutritionist and author of the book Toxic Superfoods, How Oxalate Overload is Making You Sick and How to Get Better. How do we find you on social media?
I have my website, which is sallyknorton.com. And I'm on Instagram, SK Norton, and there's a second one for the book because SK Norton was stolen a few years ago.
Oh,
So
gosh.
two accounts there. Luckily, at 21 Days of Fighting, we got it back. And I teach a class. You can get to my class through my website. Twice a month, I do a group class where we get together and people share their stories. And I teach with the PowerPoint slides that are kind of cute with pictures and help it sink in because man, this is really tough to learn this because it seems to be in opposition to everything we're being told left and right and center.
It's so true. And I think being able to share with other people that are in the same category, so to speak, really is helpful.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing more isolating than having a problem that no one's ever heard of. And your doctor doesn't know, and your husband doesn't care. And you're like, it's really tough. And I would say that social isolation and not getting any validation in your social circles is pretty much about as painful as it could be as a problem to have in life.
Well, Sally, you're doing so many wonderful things for so many people. I really appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time today.
Oh, thanks so much. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to Food Talk for Health today. We'd love your support. Subscribe if you can and write a review. Food Talk for Health is produced by Creative Voice and Media. Thanks for listening.